we're probably vastly underestimating the cost that it's going to take to be able to develop the AI. Hi everyone, today I want to talk about a new paper written by RobotsMali's, a super cool organization working to democratize access to technology in Mali and West Africa. The paper focuses on one of the biggest bottlenecks in the development of artificial intelligence, the hidden cost of human effort. The paper focuses on Bambara, a language spoken in Mali. One of the most staggering findings in the paper was what the researchers call the 30-to-1 rule. So for an hour of recorded content in Bambara, it took 30 hours to produce a high quality and accurate transcription. And that was in ideal conditions. In a real world setting where you have power cuts and patchy internet, it took more like 36 hours. And that's consistent with what we found at Clear Global when working in primarily oral languages. To put this in a little bit of perspective, for an hour of English audio, it takes between 3 and 6 hours to provide a transcription. So that means that it takes 5 to 10 times longer to provide a transcription and produce the data needed to develop artificial intelligence in an oral language than it does in, say, English or French. This is interesting to me because it moves the conversation away from just compute and we need more GPUs to really focusing on the human factor. The researchers divide primarily oral languages up into 3 categories: moderate, low, and negligible. A moderate language is like Hausa or Swahili, where there's some written content, a stable alphabet, and there are people who can read and write it fluently. A negligible language is like Rohingya, that doesn't have a stable writing system and not very many people can read and write it. Bambara is what they call a low literacy language. So there is a standard alphabet, but not very many people learn to read and write it, although very, very many people can speak it fluently. So why did it take 30 hours to transcribe it? The transcribers all had university degrees, so literacy or typing speed weren't the issue. The researchers point to intense cognitive demand. The transcribers were having to mentally map spoken phonemes into a written script that they didn't use every day, taking into account subtle variations in dialect. And that's just mentally taxing. Even when they used artificial intelligence to pre-transcribe the audio, the biggest time and most time-consuming part of the production pipeline was still human effort to correct the transcription. So what does this mean? Well, first of all, our timelines have to fit primarily oral languages. We can't be using the same sorts of timelines that we would use for English or French when we're talking about developing data for artificial intelligence. And secondly, that means the cost is going to be more. And while there is some investment right now in developing artificial intelligence in primarily oral languages, we're probably vastly underestimating the cost that it's going to take to be able to develop the AI. And thirdly, we're not going to be able to synthetic our way out of this. We are going to have to invest in the communities that speak these languages. So overall, if we really want to be building truly inclusive artificial intelligence that everyone can access, we have to be investing in the communities that speak those languages and truly valuing human effort. And that's what's interesting.